If there's one thing that could be expected from a new system in the 80s, it's a range of sports titles. And the Master System is no exception to this rule. We might only be 3 games into the system's life, but Great Soccer is the start of Sega's so-called Great Sports series. However, despite this being the start of a series with a number of extremely common games, Great Soccer is actually relatively hard to find. Great Soccer was released in October of 1985 in Japan, but only saw a very limited release outside of Japan. It seems to have been released in some European countries and Australia in 1986, but that's it. It's probably not surprising that a soccer game didn't make its way to the US, but Great Soccer also has the distinction of being the only Sega card release never to be re-released on a standard cartridge. Some viewers might recall seeing a Great Soccer cartridge release, and if you do, you'd be right. For some reason known only to Sega themselves, they decided to release a completely different game with the very same name. So this is actually the first time we'll be reviewing a Great Soccer title on SMS Ages. With the history out of the way, how does the game itself actually play? Truth be told, it's an extremely limited experience. The box might claim that Great Soccer offers an exciting and authentic soccer experience, but I think that is stretching the meaning of both exciting and authentic. For a start, the game only features 2 teams, red and blue. There are 2 modes, versus the CPU or another player, and most notably, the game is more of a 5-a-side experience, as the teams feature 5 outfield players and a goalkeeper, instead of the full complement of 11 players per side. All of this wouldn't really matter if the game played well, and to be fair to Sega, they did try and tailor the experience to the limits of the system. The controls use a primitive form of context-sensitive actions in order to include all the features of a real soccer game on a system with only 2 buttons. So for example, when defending, you can perform tackles, but when you have possession, your buttons change to passing. That is, unless you're in the opponent's third of screen when the option to shoot becomes available. At the time of Great Soccer's release, it would have been impossible to avoid comparison to Soccer on the Famicom, which was released about 6 months prior. The Famicom game features some similar constraints, such as the context-sensitive actions and reduced number of players per team, but it also does things quite differently in some key aspects. The Famicom game uses a side-on view instead of the overhead view of the Master System release, and it features actual screen scrolling instead of the flip screen on the Master System game. This is a particularly odd choice by Sega, since the Master System features more capable hardware, certainly graphically at least, than the Famicom. The Famicom game also features better presentation, more teams to choose from, and probably plays ever so slightly better. In truth, neither game is aged particularly well, but Soccer on the NES at least has the decency to be easy enough to pick up for those curious to try it out. The same can't be said about the Sega card version of Great Soccer. Let's hope the tide can be turned by the time the next Great Soccer arrives on the system. Thanks for watching SMS Ages. If you like this episode, then why not try some of the other episodes or other content on the channel, and perhaps like, subscribe and share to help spread the word. If you also want to find out more information, you can follow us on Twitter at Irish Nerd Life. Next time on SMS Ages, a magical hammer comes crashing down.